So today was basically just to be going over, starting with the basics of what the circulatory system is, and then we'll just talk about the heart and the different parts of the heart and its anatomy. We probably get into more detail on the circulatory system than you did in health class. I know you've studied it a little bit in health class. We'll probably get into more detail. So, what is the purpose of the circulatory system? We kind of talked about it yesterday. Jenna?
Blood flowing throughout your body.
Yeah, to keep blood constantly flowing through our body, which is important. Why? Why is that a key factor in us staying alive, Joe?
Because every part of your body needs blood to it.
Right? What does it actually need from the blood, Jacob?
Oxygen.
It needs the oxygen and other stuff as well. And so that's the main goal of the circulatory system. It's to get food and oxygen to every single cell in your body. Every cell in your body must have a constant supply of oxygen. If it doesn't, it will start to die. But also, the circulatory system not only delivers things to cells, but removes certain things from our cells. What kind of things does it have to remove?
Bacteria, sickness.
Some, like parts of your blood, do fight off illnesses. What else? Every cell in your body produces this, and your blood helps to remove it.
A cut?
Waste.
Waste.
Waste, well, let's be specific. One specific type of waste is
Carbon dioxide.
Yeah, carbon dioxide. So our blood takes the carbon dioxide that our cells are producing in other waste and gets rid of them. Why do all our cells produce carbon dioxide? Because of what process?
Respiration.
Cellular respiration, good. And so the main driver of the circulatory system is the heart. The heart is the pump that keeps our blood flowing through our body. Jacob?
Can't you have like a fake heart to like do all that? Like I heard this one guy, he had like a fake heart, like it was like
Yeah,
metal
sometimes
stuff.
there are artificial hearts. So if a person has damage to their heart in some way and it's no longer working, they may be able to get a heart transplant from another person. There are artificial hearts that can be put into somebody to help to replace the functioning of the heart. Sometimes people have a pacemaker that causes their heart to beat at certain times. So there's a lot of different things that can be done. Towards the end of this section, we're going to talk a lot about heart surgery and bypass and stents and all that kind of stuff. So we will talk about those things. So this is the heart. It's what it really looks like. So it doesn't look like the little heart emoji or anything. It's sort of like an idealized version of what a heart looks like. This is a more accurate version of the heart with some of the surrounding vessels. And it's basically in the center of our chest. The larger side is sort of tilted towards the left, so it's kind of a little bit asymmetrical there. But it's there, it's protected by our sternum, and by our rib cage. Again, because it's such an important organ, it's protected by those bones so that it's not damaged. Heart's about, the size of your fist. Is probably pretty close to the size of the heart. This would be like an adult-sized heart right here. Jacob?
Isn't it the reason people like made that kind of heart is like put two hearts together?
I don't know. I've heard people say that. I don't know if it's actually true.
Kind of looks true.
Maybe. I don't know.
How come we feel it? Yeah. How come we put our hand like this like our heart on the left side?
Because, like I said, because that large ventricle is sort of on the left side of the heart. It's a little bigger there.
How come we can't feel it in the middle?
You could if you really so close.
Oh yeah.
All right. So what we're going to do today is just talk about the heart and the circulation through the body. And we're going to do it in stages. We're going to start with a very simplified diagram, and then we'll get up to more realistic diagrams. So this is obviously not what the heart looks like. This is a depiction of the heart, just using boxes. And so we'll start off with this to help us understand it. Now, did I make an error when I labeled the right and left?
Yeah. Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
No, because we go to
No. Because when we're talking about anatomy, we always look at it as if it's in a person we're looking at. So if you were looking at, if that was my heart, which hand am I holding up? My right hand. Even though when you're looking at me, it's on your left, but it's my right hand. This is my right eye. This is the right side of my heart. Okay? So you always are looking at illustrations like you're looking into somebody, and it's their heart. So yeah, the right side of my heart is over here. This is the left side of my heart. So that's why it looks reversed. All right, so we're going to start on the right side of the heart in this chamber here. How many chambers in a mammal's heart?
4.
4 chambers. 1, 2, 3, 4. These top chambers are called atrium. Bottom chambers are called ventricles. So this is the right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle. So let's start on the right side. The right side of the heart collects the blood from all throughout the body. Yeah, so this word, it's big, but it's simple to understand. What does deoxygenated mean? Yeah, it means it doesn't have oxygen. It's blood that's low in oxygen. So the right side of the heart collects all the blood from the various parts of the body that's deoxygenated. It's low in oxygen. Now when we say body here or over here, what we really mean is any part of your body. Every part of your body gets blood, and so we're just sort of use the word body as a general term for any part of the body. All right, so the right side collects deoxygenated blood. So this deoxygenated blood, it's low in oxygen, but it's high in what? Carbon dioxide, right. Because it's coming from your body, and it just removed the waste from your cells, and it's just given up its oxygen. So that blood that's coming into the right atrium, it's low in oxygen, but it's high in carbon dioxide. So where do you think that blood needs to go? So if it's low in oxygen and high in carbon dioxide, raise your hand and tell me, where does this blood have to go? Yeah, it's got to go to the lungs. And it does. The right ventricle pumps that blood all the way to the lungs. So what's going to happen to the blood? This blood, when it reaches the lungs, it's going to change. What happens to the blood when it reaches your lungs, this deoxygenated blood? Yeah? Turns into what?
CO2.
Not quite turns into, but you're on the right track. Go. No, not in your lungs. When you breathe in, this blood is already deoxygenated. When it gets to your lungs,
Wait, doesn't it like send out the O2 into your blood and stuff?
your lungs put oxygen into your blood. And what happens to the carbon dioxide in the blood?
It gets released out of your nose.
Yes. So you exhale the carbon dioxide, you take in the oxygen. So this blood changes. It releases carbon dioxide. It gains oxygen. And that's the purpose of our lungs, is to give our blood new oxygen and to get rid of carbon dioxide. So that you could think it's like this blood is recharged. Now it has all the things it needs to deliver to your cells. All right.
Oh, come on.
Let's use it to the mouse.
Good.
All right. Now this blood that's oxygenated, that needs to go to the body cells. Okay? But it can't go right there yet. It has to make a pit stop. You know where, Maggie? What? Yeah, good question. So let's talk about that. So we generally, when we're talking about the circulatory system, we often use red to indicate oxygenated blood and blue to represent deoxygenated blood. But it's not really red and blue. The blood itself, that's a myth that deoxygenated blood is blue. Okay? Even though some people may have told you that, maybe even sometimes teachers say that, it's not really blue. It does change color though. So oxygenated blood that's high in oxygen is bright red. When it loses its oxygen, it turns darker red or like a purpley kind of color. But it's not blue. That's a myth. But we still use those colors to help us understand circulation a little bit better. All right, so this blood that has oxygen, okay, it's going to go back to the heart again. But now it goes to the opposite side. It goes to the left side of the heart.
Wait, doesn't this happen in like a second?
Your heart beats every second, but the blood doesn't make the complete circuit every second.
So it's
it moves a little farther each time.
So like, you're not breathing and breathing out the same breath. It's like the last breath that you're breathing in.
Yeah, like when I breathe in right now, whatever blood happens to be in my lungs is getting oxygenated. And then it's moving back to my heart.
Oh.
And new blood's going to come into my lungs, and that'll be oxygenated in my next breath. Right. Then your carbon dioxide builds up in your blood, your oxygen levels in your blood drop, and that's why you feel weird or you could pass out if you don't have oxygen, because your brain's not getting the oxygen it needs. So this blood gets back to the left side of the heart. The left side, the left atrium, collects the blood from the lungs. Okay, so what word would we use to describe blood that just came from the lungs? Oxygenated, right. So what does that mean? So recreate this sentence over here for me. This phrase, what should it be over here? Joe?
It's high in CO2. Or no, it's low in CO2 and high in O2.
Correct. It's high in oxygen because it just got recharged from the lungs. It's low in carbon dioxide because it just gave up its carbon dioxide to the lungs. So that blood is all set and ready to be delivered to the body. And so this chamber here, the left ventricle, is what pumps that blood to all the various parts of your body. Jacob?
Why does it turn into carbon dioxide?
What's that?
Why does like the oxygen that's in your blood turn into carbon?
It doesn't turn into it. So in your lungs, you mean?
Yeah.
In your lungs, so when you breathe in, oxygen in the air you breathe in diffuses into your blood. Carbon dioxide from your blood diffuses into the air in your lungs, and then you exhale it. So one doesn't turn into the other, it just moves into and out of the air in your lungs. Jenna?
Alright, so if you get like a paper cut, for example, and you bleed, does it change color at all coming out?
If it was deoxygenated blood, it might become brighter red.
What if it's like already bright red?
Then no. Okay?
How long does it take a blood?
I think like a couple minutes. For like blood, one piece of blood to start in your heart, go somewhere, go to your lungs, and come back to that same spot is, I think, a minute or 2 minutes or something like that.
How does blood get like out of fingertips?
Because there's tiny little blood vessels all throughout your body, even though you can't see them. Like if you have a paper cut, you can't see like an artery or a vein in there, but there's tiny little capillaries that you can't see, and that's where the blood's leaking out of. All right, and finally, once this blood gets to the body, what does it give to the cells?
Oxygen.
What does it take away from the cells?
CO2. Carbon dioxide.
So the blood gives the cells the oxygen they need, and it takes away their carbon dioxide. So when we say body, we mean anywhere. We can mean your brain, or your ears, or your eyes, or your fingers, or your toes, or your quads, or your kidneys. Body is just like a general term that can mean any part of your body anywhere. All right, so the blood delivers this stuff to your cells, and then it completes its path. It goes back up into the heart, with the right side, which collects that deoxygenated blood, then sends it back to the lungs, back to the heart. So we have this repeating pattern. Heart, lungs, heart, body, heart, lungs, heart, body. That's the pathway in which this blood follows. So this is obviously not what the heart looks like. Okay, so the right side carries deoxygenated blood, left side oxygenated blood. And the lungs and the body are where it changes from one to the other. Now here we're a little bit more realistic, still not great, but it's a little bit better. Let's trace the path of blood again. So now let's name the chambers. This is the right atrium. Have you ever heard the term atrium?
Yeah.
Like in a hotel or a big house, like the main lobby or the main doorway is called the atrium. It means entryway. So that makes sense because the atrium are the chambers of the heart which blood enters. This is the right ventricle. What would this be called, Nate? What chamber would that be?
The left atrium.
That's the left atrium. Anita, what chamber would this be?
The left ventricle.
Yep. All right, so we have the blood coming in. Where did this blood come from? From the body. Then it goes from the atrium into the ventricle. Now along the way it goes through this thing we call a valve, a heart valve. It's kind of like a one-way door. So you can imagine as the blood goes through, gets pumped from the atrium to the ventricle, the door opens, allowing the blood through. But if blood tries to go back, that little one-way door shuts. So it prevents blood from going backwards. Although sometimes these valves can be leaky, and some blood does go back. And you may have heard the term heart murmur before. It's pretty common for somebody to have a heart murmur. And that's what that is sometimes. It's blood, and the valve's not closing properly or something. And the doctor can hear that when they listen to your heart with a stethoscope. That's why they listen to your heart. A lot of times people just outgrow it as they get older.
I have it.
Yeah,
Or
I
have
remember.
it, I don't know.
Yeah, so did my daughter. So it's pretty common. So it goes through this one-way valve into the right ventricle. Then it gets pumped up through this tube. Where is this blood headed?
The lungs.
To the lungs. Now, we need to know a couple terms. Does anybody, so you know what CPR is, right? What's it stand for? Does anyone know that? Cardio meaning what? What does cardio mean?
Heart.
It means heart. Do you know the second word, the P? Starts with a P.
Wait, how did you?
Respiratory.
Yeah.
No. Pulmonary. Pulmonary is a term that means it has to do with the lungs. Resuscitation. So what that means is cardio meaning they're pushing on your heart to pump blood through your body. Pulmonary is when they give you rescue breathing to get air into your lungs. Resuscitation means to restart. So they're trying to restart your heart and lungs. So this blood vessel that leads to the lungs is called the pulmonary artery. Arteries are called that because they move blood away from the heart. So this is going away from the heart to the lungs. Yes, Meg? You can hear it on your right side too. Yeah, it's just because the left ventricle is towards that side, it's easier to feel. So this blood goes to the lungs, does its thing, gets recharged, gains oxygen, gets rid of carbon dioxide. Then where's it going to return to?
Heart.
Which side though? And it's going to come back to the left atrium from the lungs. Because it's coming from the lungs, it's called the pulmonary, but now it's going back to the heart, so it's called the pulmonary what?
Pulmonary valve?
Not valve, close though. It's not an artery, it's a vein, a pulmonary vein. Pulmonary vein transports that blood back to the left atrium. And then it goes through a valve into the left ventricle. Then it gets pumped out. Where is it headed? So all the parts of the body. It goes through a very large artery that's called the aorta. And then that blood goes to all the other parts of the body. So we have right atrium, right ventricle, through the pulmonary artery to the lungs, back to the heart through the pulmonary vein, to the left atrium, left ventricle, then out to the body to the aorta, and then we repeat. Joe?
My grandma, like a few years ago, had an aortic tear. So, like, she caught it just one time, or else she was going to bleed out.
Yeah,
Internally.
because the aorta is the largest artery in the body. It carries a huge amount of blood that leaves the heart. If there's a tear, then some of that blood can leak out, and a person can bleeding out.
How big is the one? I don't know what she's about.
Well, it's a tube. I'll show you here in this model. So you see this. So this red tube, that's the aorta. So it's about this big around. Comes out and loops through there. It's like a big tube.
She had like a hat over her
Yeah. All right. Now this is what the heart really looks like. So if you were to look at a heart, slice it in half and look inside of it, this is what you would see. So the parts are the same we just labeled. Let's just label what they look like sort of in a more accurate drawing. We're also going to add a couple things. So starting with the chambers. Sydney, what chamber is this?
No.
Atrium. This one's the right atrium. Jamie, what's this one?
I don't know how to say it, but it's the word somewhere with the B in it.
Ventricle. So the right atrium, right ventricle. Suli, how about this chamber? Left atrium. Madison, how about this chamber? Yes. So those are our four chambers. Atrium on top, ventricles on bottom. Right side, left side. All right, so the blood comes in to the right atrium. Where is it coming from? Where is this blood coming into the right atrium? Not coming from the lungs.
It's from the body.
Coming from various parts of your body. This big vein that carries the blood into the right atrium, it's called the vena cava.
What?
Vena cava. Now there's two. This one's called superior, this is inferior. Where do you think this one's coming from? So if you imagine this heart in my body, yeah, this is coming from my lower body. Blood from my lower body comes into my heart through that tube. This tube coming in from the top brings the blood from my upper body into there. So that's why there's one coming from the bottom, one coming from the top. All right. So that blood goes through the valve into the ventricle. It's getting pumped out. Where's this blood going? To the lungs. What was that called? So lungs, what's the word for lungs?
Aorta.
No? No? We just talked about it. We talked about pulmonary. This is going away from the heart, so it's a pulmonary artery. Now it branches, and there's two of them. Why is it split in two? One going this way, one goes this way.
They go to each other's body.
Close.
There's two areas for them to go.
Yeah, what are they called? Where's that blood going to?
Oh, it's going to the
Yeah?
Oh, so it's going to the different lungs.
Yeah, you have two lungs.
I thought
One brings blood to the right lung, one brings blood to the left lung.
I thought it was the
All right, after the lungs, what happens to the blood in the lungs? Well, first, in the lungs, how does it change? I need to call some people. Hold on. Anna, what happens to the blood when it's in your lungs?
Changes.
How? What does it gain? And what does it lose? Carbon dioxide. Yes. So the blood gains oxygen, loses carbon dioxide. Where does it have to go next, Chris? Into your body. Well, yeah, but it has to make a pit stop along the way. Doesn't go directly to your body. First, it goes back to
The left atrium.
back to the heart, to the left atrium. This blood was coming from the lungs. What's the word that means lungs, Maggie? Pulmonary. But it's going to the heart, so it's not a pulmonary artery, it's a... No, close. Not ventricle, though.
Oxygenated.
No. It's a not a pulmonary artery, it's a pulmonary
Vein.
vein. The pulmonary vein brings this blood back into the heart, into the left atrium. Then it moves into the left ventricle, and then gets pumped out. What's this blood vessel called? The main artery that leaves the heart? Aorta.
Wait, does the aorta have like once it goes down to the bottom?
What happens is the blood leaves, goes through the aorta. This might go to the right arm. This might go up to the head. This might go to the left arm. And it continues, it loops, goes behind the heart. Where's this going?
That goes down to the bottom.
Down to the lower parts of the body, yes. And then that process repeats. One other part, this separation between the left and right side of the heart is called the septum. Joe?
So like does the aorta like go down and it like split?
Yeah, and then once it's down lower, it branches off in all various
Oh, okay.
other arteries. Jenna?
I was gonna ask why like the big words have small lines and the big
Signs.
words always have big lines.